Finally, we're going on an adventure. Ever since I did my very first rollerblade kayaking adventure in Madison, Wisconsin, I've been looking for other adventures, and I've done a lot of them. But this season I said, let's pick out a bigger adventure, something longer and more adventurous to do. Let's go get the grumpy guy in the trailer to explain on the old Google Maps what we're up to here. All right, grumpy guy in the trailer here. Why am I grumpy? Because I'm not on the adventure. Let's talk about this adventure that we're going to try and get done this summer. All right, here we are on the Googly Maps. Now, what you need for a rollerblade kayak shuttle is a river and a paved bike path, because then you can rollerblade up the river and then come back down. And as it turns out, there's a bike path all the way from here. This is Chatfield Reservoir, all the way through downtown Denver, all the way to Brighton. Unbroken trail the whole way, river the whole way. So my goal, or the idea here, is to start at Chatfield and do this in sections all the way to Brighton. But then I think I'm going to add in a bonus section from Brighton to Fort Lupton. And that will be the entire urban portion of the South Platte River. Problem number one, I can't access the river at this point. And this is kind of a good problem in the long term for people like me and you who boat to have. Let me show you. Yeah, they're putting in a new kayak park. So that would be pretty cool. But today's problem is, as I skate upriver, is there going to be a place where I can get back off the river to get to my car? All right, let's talk about this section that I'm about to do. I had originally planned to do 6 miles today, with the idea that it would take me 4 to 5 sections altogether to get from Chatfield Reservoir all the way to Fort Lupton. However, a couple things. One is, I haven't skated since last fall. 2, when I checked the levels of the river, it said below recommended. So rather than roping myself into a full 6-mile skate and boat, I've decided instead, at least for the beginning here, to cut this down to 3. Oh yeah, there's an example that I haven't been skating in a long time. Well, one of the great benefits of doing a rollerblade shuttle is you do get to see the river. And the question with me deciding to do this when it's below recommended is, how much am I going to be walking and how much am I going to be floating? Another case in point for scouting the river as you go. I don't think I can float over that. It looks too rocky. All right, it says 15.3. We'll see if we can read that on the video. I think that means that I've got a little over half the skate to do yet. I think I'm around 1.5 miles. I'm only supposedly doing 3. Off we go. All right, here's our update. We started here. We've gone down here, about here. Somewhere. Well, here we are on the final section. When I mean the final section, that's the final section of these things. This is the beginning section of boating. It's looking super shallow. It's going to be a bunch of walking here. But as much as I'm not a big fan of goals, there is a strong goal-oriented side of myself that says I want to start at the very beginning. So let's go take a look, find out how unreasonable that will be. I've been watching this sign for a little bit as I walk this way. I was really expecting it to say no entry beyond this point, but it just tells me to beware. So that's cool, because let's look over here. That's all the farther there is to go. So I guess I'm going to start right there. It's going to be the beginning of the urban Platte River boating trip, section 1. Okay, that sign on the other hand quite clearly says keep out. So we're gonna start on this little beach here and we'll go past that, but I ain't going into that. Like I said, the goal-oriented part of me says that will be the very, very beginning, but you know, that's stupid. And then I'm gonna get out of here in case somebody decides to release water out of this dam. I don't want to be anywhere near here. Well, that is where the Platte River gets released from Chatfield Reservoir. That's the thing I'm not going to enter. So here we go. Let's turn around and head this way. And eventually we're going to go all the way from here, hopefully to Fort Lupton. Not today, but by the end of the summer sometime. Off we go. Well, this is where that below recommended water flow comes in. This would probably be a fun little passage through here, but as you see, it's full of rocks. I'm not sure how it is that I'm not scaring these geese away, but they don't seem at all bothered by my presence. I have this tendency not to film when things get sucky, which deprives you of the sucky part of the story, but take a look here. This is way too shallow. And I'm excited about boating the Platte River. I'm not excited about walking it. I am back in the boat, floating, going along at a half a mile an hour, but at least I'm in the boat. That tree over there is the tree I took a nap under, and I've basically come from that dam. It's taken me a long time. I think this is going to be a long day. Well, I'm hoping to end up this trip with a little bit more fun than I've had so far on the river. It's been very, very shallow, a lot of hiking the boat, next to the big highway. But take a look now. This is looking a little bit more like river scenery. Kind of the thing I was hoping for, these hidden little spots of nature within an otherwise urban environment. Okay, the beavers have been doing a little gardening in this area. And here's what the beavers were up to. So I guess I'm hiking the boat around this. According to that orange sign, it's a half a mile to the construction. I need to remember this spot right here, because this is when I got out of the river. This is where I'll have to start the river next time. Okay, a couple things about this trip is the water's way too shallow. And I was being overly optimistic, which maybe I'm trying to balance out my natural pessimism, but I kind of bit myself in the butt. It was a fun day. But I did deprive myself of a lot of fun, because if the water would have been a little bit higher, a lot of those sections that were a pain in the butt or that I had to carry the boat around would have been fun. I deprived myself of that. That was kind of silly. So if you're going to do this section of the Platte, that very first chunk, 198 CFS is not enough. You need more. Now, the reason I went is that at some point about 210, it says reasonable or something like that. And I thought, well, what's the real difference? And the truth is, I don't know. But if there had been 3 inches more water, it would have been way, 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 way more doable. If there had been 5 more inches of water, it would have been great. So when am I going to do the next section of the river? Well, not till I see that gauge reading 230 or something like that, or I get more bored and frustrated. But check in later on. We'll see if it happens.